Hello, fourth graders. For today's mini lesson for our work that we're doing for IB on human migration, we are going to talk about natural disasters. Now, we're not going to get through everything today because this is kind of a big part of human migration, and one that continues today, right now. Just the most recent Australian bushfires have been in the news, leading up until to all the coronavirus kind of taking over. But we saw those fires and we talked about them in school and saw them on CNN. So these are ongoing um, disasters that are the cause of things that happen naturally on Earth, but it can cause massive amounts of people to leave a place. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to highlight just a few of them to begin with. I'm also going to link some video footage and some cool news stories to go along with this mini lesson. And then there's also a short quiz just to make sure that you have watched the videos. So I want you to go in the right order. I want you to start with this, then I want you to check out the videos, and then finish off today by taking that quiz. This is a really big part of human migration and one that I want to take some time on. So we'll work on this today and tomorrow. The first natural disaster that I want to cover is a tsunami that happened in the Indian Ocean in 2004. Now, the Indian Ocean, this is the coast of Africa here. Over here, we see India, Thailand. This is Indonesia. And this is the Indian Ocean that we're looking at. So, a tsunami is caused by an earthquake happening that then causes there to be a shift in the Earth's crust. And one part of the Earth's center shifts up. And what that does is to the water above it, it causes it to essentially just start to gather wave after wave after wave. And you can see that the epicenter of it hit right in here. So the hardest hit areas for this tsunami were, and everything closest to this center is where it was hit hardest. So you can see Indonesia and Thailand are going to be the hardest hit countries for this, and Malaysia for this tsunami. This is a picture of the tsunami actually approaching, and you can see here, this wave doesn't get this big until right about this point. It looks more like a small ripple out, and you'll see in the videos I sent, you'll be able to see that. For the people on the beach, it just looks kind of like a normal wave. But something interesting happens with a tsunami. Before a tsunami hits, all of the water on the beach recedes way, way out, like to here, way further than it would normally. And then when it starts to come back, it gathers more and more and more and more water. And that wave gets bigger and stronger. And it's not until just a few seconds before it hits that people understand how big that wave has gotten. Now, the destruction that this wave does, its first initial impact, yes, it could knock over houses, it could knock over buildings. But the more dangerous thing about water and a tsunami is that this wave doesn't continue coming. It comes once, and then all of this water behind it that has all this force and all this movement just covers entire towns and cities and villages. And this is what it looked like after the tsunami had hit. So these are whole cities. And you can see that once that tsunami hit and all that water came, it destroys everything. Do you know, guys, that water is more destructive than anything else on the planet? It's so crazy because we think of water as like one drop at a time seems so harmless, but water is more powerful than fires, earthquakes, hurricanes, wind. It is the most destructive thing that exists on Earth because what it does to a city or a village or to homes is once it covers and and floods places, everything starts to break down in it. So it gets wet and moldy, and nothing can really exist if it sits for too long in water. So this is the tsunami of 2004 in the Indian Ocean. The next thing we're going to cover is Hurricane Katrina. And this happened in the southeast US in 2005, and this is an aerial view that NASA took right above Florida and Alabama and Louisiana, all these states down here. This shows what the storm looked like from space. And this to an astronaut and this to a meteorologist, this is what a hurricane looks like from space. And you can see the circle that it's making. So Hurricane Katrina hit right on the coasts of Alabama and Louisiana. Florida was hit by this. And you can see here the panhandle of Florida. I'm sorry, the inland part of Florida, then the panhandle. Both of those got hit by it. And so we have these few coastlines that got this whole hurricane that was stewing over here. And as it got closer and closer, when it finally hit, it was so destructive. This is a picture of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. The storm had passed, but there was so much flooding. These are the tops of houses. The water is up to the roofs. And so this is an example of, look at all these houses. These are all houses where people live. Where do they go? They can't live in there. You can't live in a house that's filled with water. You certainly can't live in a house even once the water recedes. Recedes is a fancy way of saying the water goes down and down and down. Though nothing inside those houses is usable. Everything has been wrecked by sitting in water for that length of time. So this is just one shot. This is just one little neighborhood. And all of these people would have been displaced, forced to leave, forced to find a new place to live. The third one that we're going to talk about is the earthquake that hit Haiti in 2010. Now, this earthquake happened to a very small, tiny country that is in the Caribbean Sea. So here's Cuba, and here's Jamaica, here's Puerto Rico, here's Haiti. Florida's just a little bit north of here, okay? So right kind of up here, you would find the southernmost part of the United States. The Caribbean isn't too far from there. So these are all their own separate countries, Jamaica, Cuba. Haiti is half of an island that shares, and they share it with the country of the Dominican Republic. This earthquake that happened right here in this little corner of Haiti. Now look at all this water. This is not a place where it's easy to escape if you need to leave because you've had an earthquake and you've lost your home. This was one of the most destructive earthquakes to ever hit this area, and it completely destroyed the entire island. If you look back to that first picture I showed, these are not livable conditions. This is absolute wreckage. This is destruction, completely destroyed businesses, homes, and the people here have already really struggled with poverty. So you can imagine that this was an absolute tragedy for the people of Haiti. The final one that we're going to talk about today is the Joplin tornado that hit Missouri in 2011. Now, Missouri is a state in the United States. It's this state right here. Okay, so Minnesota's here. This is Iowa. This is Missouri. This is Arkansas. And this is Louisiana. This is the area we were just talking about with Hurricane Katrina. And actually, I like this picture because here you can see these are those islands we were talking about. Just in the one before. The tiny island of Haiti and Jamaica. Those are the islands right there. So We have Missouri here, and you can see this was a forecast that the Weather Channel issued on where they thought the tornadoes were going to be the worst. And that included parts of Indiana, that included parts of Iowa, parts of Wisconsin, even this little tiny part of Minnesota. But where it ended up actually striking and being the most destructive, and one of the worst tornadoes to ever hit the United States, was in the state of Missouri. This tornado was one of the most destructive of its time. It absolutely flattened whole counties across Missouri. And you can see here again, like we talked about, these are not, a tree limb fell on your house, or, you have to fix some windows. This is complete and utter destruction. If this is your house, you cannot go back there. And so the people who lived in these homes, this is the wreckage of their homes. They could not return there. And so in these natural disasters, people have to make a decision. Do they stay and try to rebuild amongst all of this destruction? Or do they leave and start fresh somewhere else? And very, very often, people decide that what makes the most sense for them is to start over somewhere else. And so in all of these examples that I showed you today, these natural disasters were like a domino effect where people had to make that decision. Do I stay? Do I go? And a lot of people at one time decide that they need to go. And it happens at the same time because the natural disaster happened at the exact moment for all of them. And you have to make this decision pretty quickly because you have a family and you need to figure out what your plan is for them. So these natural disasters can cause and have caused many of our biggest migrations. And they're not from war, and they're not from poverty, and they're not from fear. They're from something out of anyone's control happening and people having to pick up and start over in a new place. So we will end it there for today. Please take the time to watch some of the videos I've linked, and then go ahead and take that quiz. I did make it multiple attempts, so if you're not happy with your first score, you are able to go back in and try that again. Okay, so after this, watch the videos and then the quiz and submit it, please.